All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this chat. I've got one of my fellow Pure instructors here, Josh or Joshua, and he'll introduce himself in a moment. But my name is Rob or Robert Hean. I'm a Pure instructor and Pure project manager. And one of your first questions might be, what is Pure? It stands for Projects Under Realistic Expectations, and it's under the Pure Management Alliance, a group that we have all come to work on to help get uh, more information about project management in the real world, to get people who have done project management to share how they've done it, and not just the more theoretical book learning versions, but the stories from how do we go out as project managers and members of projects to do project work, and what is that like, and what can we share. And so I was really excited to join this group and be one of these instructors. And I'll share more about my courses, but I do want to give Josh a moment to introduce himself.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Phillips, and just everyone on the team for even allowing me to be here again. My name is Joshua, or Josh for short. I am also a Pure instructor. I have one of the courses that I'm sure we'll talk about. I also have my own company, Avalon Grade Solutions. It actually helps out U.S. veterans and aspiring project managers get into the PM career. So being a part of this team, while also helping out a lot of individuals get into the PM career, has been absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited to have this video specifically because there is a lot of crossover between Robert and I.
Josh, you and I haven't worked together very much, but we've worked a lot on this program, which has been a lot of fun. I've seen your courses. And one of the things I noticed when I was looking at who you are online, you have your company, and in your company name, there's a sword through one of the words. Um, I have some associations where I think that'll be, and I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper, but I'm curious if you could share why. Let me just write something first. Okay, it's hidden. Why is it in there?
All
I'd
right.
love to know.
So the short story really is Avalon Grade Solutions. I was part of the Air Force. I'm an Air Force veteran, and my
Wow.
company is actually associated to government contracting. So one of the biggest things is acronyms. You got a lot of other companies and who has like a 2 to 3 letter word acronym. Mine's AGS, or I would try making it as simple as possible. But I'm also a huge how do I say, nerd. I love D&D. I love Lord of the Rings. I love all this stuff. And here's where the kicker comes into play. I needed a 2 or 3 letter acronym.
D&D.
Yeah, something similar to this. So Avalon is actually the mythical island where Excalibur, the sword, was created.
Yep.
So Avalon and the sword is where where the connection is. And grade, you got to have high quality, high grade situations and quality services and products. And then I create solutions for a lot of people's problems. So Avalon Grade Solutions, and that's where the sword comes in. It's supposed to be Excalibur.
Gotcha. Well, you could never pull it though, because you're not, King Arthur, right?
Well, I in my fantasy realm, I also think of it as like Thor, where if I'm worthy enough. So I'm hoping that it's still there as well. So
I like that. And, based on what you're saying, working with veterans, which is one group that, I can only imagine I never served, but needs support after their career in the military or has skills that they can translate. That seems like a very worthy thing. I'm kind of curious, your own experience as a veteran and then blending that with project management. Is there anything as a pure instructor you're able to pull from that that might give you a better perspective on being a PM, or that you can share and connect with other people?
oh my gosh, I almost every single module. There's what, around 29 modules,
Yep.
20 plus instructors. I mean, every single one within the course itself can directly relate to veterans. The biggest reason why, now I can't speak for all veterans, but I did I did about 8 years, and I went through multiple companies, squadrons, however you want to call it. And one thing I've noticed, and also when I was a government contractor as well, is project management really isn't there. It is there, but you
Yeah.
have to pull all those translations. You have to pull, okay, so instead of making this contact list of a bunch of people's information, because I don't want to spend 5 minutes looking up people's emails anymore. Well, because I made that document, that's a stakeholder register, right?
Hmm.
And so all these things, like we just never called them that. And we don't like, there's a lot of people who do project management and they don't know it. And there's so much. This is why I love Pure, because it gets rid of a lot of that, high overview or high level terminology and verbiage that we may never use, like stakeholder register, for instance, right? But there's so
Hmm.
many amazing tools and examples that you go over and so many other individuals go over that can easily help out so many veterans right away. You can really get a lot of the practical things that veterans can start using today, tomorrow. And that's why, honestly, I absolutely love being a part of this, because this has so much uh, it can contribute to so many people within for aspiring project managers and veterans.
I think what you're saying too about there are things we all do in our day-to-day lives that are project management, but we don't have the technical term. Yeah, and that for me has been interesting to think back on my experience in projects. Like I had no formal training. I was just thrown into a project and they said, go figure it out, basically. Um, I was a project management module expert for a computer system, and I knew nothing about either the system or project management. And then over time, I look back, oh, wait, actually, this part of what we did, that was building our communications plan. Or, oh, hey, talking to this person, that was our work breakdown structure. And that's what I've enjoyed about working with the other, pure instructors and Joseph Phillips is, hey, it doesn't have to be by the book. And I'm pointing over my shoulder at a big bookshelf of the technical books. That knowledge can be interesting and useful. But for me, it's after the fact. What I need in the moment or what I needed early in my career wasn't the big musty tome of terms. It was to your point, how to build a contact list. I didn't care what it was called. I had to know who to go reach out to. Yeah, and that's what I've liked working out with Pure. And I guess to clarify for folks who are just stepping in, this is not just for veterans. I was just really curious to hear about how Josh is blending, his experience with that group and as himself, but also with project management, because these are two things that can really benefit from each other. So Josh, you mentioned there's 29 different modules, 20-ish instructors. Remind me which ones you contributed.
So the main one, or the only one that I contributed as best as I could, was specifically for the future of or the future of AI and automation for project managers.
Ooh. Mhm.
I'm, and that's where a lot of the crossover between you and I are. You talk. One of my favorite modules that you specifically did was about different types of hacks, and you also go over tools. And my whole thing is, again, there's so many things, there's so many lessons in education or content out there about project or about AI, right? And you get into lots of acronyms and machine learning and all these things that you know what, I just need to know how can I make my life easier.
Mhm.
And so you and I go over a couple things like tools and processes that make it a lot easier. And that was my whole goal: is what kind of automation, what kind of AI things are there that we can utilize right off the bat when it comes to helping make our lives easier. And I really, again, we're probably going to talk about more, but I love the connection between your hacks and
Mhm.
then also my AI and automation, because I'm telling you, alone, one of my favorite things, at least in my module, not to say much more about this, but is the AI and the automated tool just for the after meeting summaries, right? Like so many people hand jam or write everything down. And
Yes.
one of my biggest ones that I love doing is just, oh, after a meeting, there's already a summary within the first 2-3 minutes about all the things that we talked about, and a after
Mhm.
action report and next steps. Great, within 3 minutes, perfect. That's at least an hour to 2 hours as time saved just for every single meeting.
Sorry, I'm making that face because I am that person who will have up a screen while I'm on a meeting, taking the notes or writing them down. And I found a lot of value out of those same tools to like, what did I miss? Because
Mhm.
I found, I'm embarrassed to say, I almost fell asleep in a few meetings early in my career as the group was talking about, it was like the chart of accounts, and I knew nothing about accounting, and I was bored and tired, and I almost forehead the desk. And after that, I'm like, that can't happen. That is a bad look for me. So to stay engaged, I'll be taking notes, but I've realized like I miss things. Like I'll be paying attention to this person, I miss that person. So these AI summaries, and as you lay them out, like it's an amazing supplement. I still do the note taking just so I stay awake and engaged. But I have the computer, I have the machine that is really good at that stuff backing me up. Yeah, I mean that's been a great thing that I'm sure there's many other ways that AI or other tools, other hacks step in and help make up for my own internal deficiencies, so to speak.
And the main thing is right, like, is that we don't need to have a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD in AI and automation. It's just there's little things that we can do to make our lives so much easier, especially since there's so many people looking to grow into the project management career. That's why Pure is like, honestly, not to you know, say all these amazing things about Pure. Is just that it really is so great from an entry to a professional or expert level, because there are things that beginners and high level project managers can really start utilizing today. Now, I do have to say, I would be I would hate to not say this, is that for all AI and automation or any tools and software and programs out there, we always have to make sure it's approved, right, at our
Mhm.
company and everything like that. But as remote, uh, as remote project management roles keep on expanding, or at least hybrid of any kind, we can utilize a lot of this stuff right in our own work, right? But veterans, there are a lot of people. I had a top secret security clearance, so sometimes you can't even utilize some of that unless it's unclassified. So
Yeah.
these kind of things that we do have to think about. But I would say a majority of all people from entry to high level, these kinds of things are really usable, or can be easily used. So.
It is interesting thinking about tooling, and my background is mostly in IT and HR systems. And even in my career, something as basic as a ticketing system, just the evolution of that tool over the past 15, 20 years. And what we've seen with the AI tools, and in this context, it sounds like we're mostly talking about the large language models, the chat GPTs of the world, the Geminis, because even the term AI can be pretty loaded. A lot of laptops have on-device AI, so we'll put that aside. But the large language models, even in the past 2 years, have evolved to the point where a company can have their own. It's called a sandboxed version that's safe. And so for me, it's good to see these tools that we can all maybe use in our personal lives are also now being translated in a safe and appropriate way into our job. So we can ask that AI for help with our company sensitive information, maybe not top secret government stuff, but there are some options now within corporations to leverage these tools in an appropriate way, which is an important aspect of being a project manager. We can't endanger the project by leaking all of our information everywhere.
No, I 100% agree. And that it was just something that we sometimes we need to make sure that we're addressing. Sometimes people, it's one of those things that we don't always want to, what is it? Or we should always ask for permission instead of, being, how's the saying go? It's
Right.
either
Ask
ask for
for
permission, or what was it?
I always go ask for forgiveness, not permission, but that's maybe not what you're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to say the opposite, right?
Yes, ask for permission, not
Yeah.
forgiveness.
Yeah, yeah. In a multiple ways. Sometimes it's always best to actually do the opposite in that case. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. My first job was at a larger company that worked with U.S. government contracts. They almost couldn't hire me. I'm a dual U.S. Canadian citizen, and there
Oh.
was a no foreign national requirement just for security for documents. And it frustrated me because it was my first real job, and it would be a big exciting thing, and it just took weeks and weeks and weeks for the lawyers to make sure it was safe. But the way that group operated, definitely much more permission, not forgiveness. Since then, I've worked more in what most people call like a tech startup. So the organizational environment isn't the exact opposite, but pretty close. It's much more the move fast and break things. Like if you aren't asking for forgiveness, you're not doing it right, so to speak. And in those environments, I've noticed a lot more of these LLMs being pulled in, these new tools. So it's a much more agile in that sense environment. The plus side is you might start using these things. The downside is you might use them improperly, or you might have to drop them quickly when someone realizes, no, 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 maybe don't use that. Yeah, but it's been
Mm.
interesting thinking back to both sides. Like one, I cannot do it, and the other, I'm expected to almost. And just how project
It,
management is expressed that way. And that wasn't something I would have found in a book. And that's where Pure kind of brings that in. You talk to people like yourself, like me, like the 27 others who have seen that and know how to kind of adjust and tailor things in real time.
well, I'm so glad you mentioned about a little bit about your background as well. So my background's also in IT, but again, it was all about military slash government contracting and everything. But it sounds like you had, I don't want to say like large corporation, but a bigger size,
Mhm.
maybe anywhere from mid to large. But then you also said, startups as well. So you're getting the big of the big and the small of the small, which I'm so glad you mentioned that, because no wonder why your hacks are so good in
Yeah.
regards to your module itself, right? And now you also talk about self-care and also the whole like lessons learned aspect from your
Mm,
modules as well. But the hacks, again, in regards to like cross-referencing between both of ours, no wonder why your hacks are so good. Now, I wouldn't have been able to even think about a lot of the things that you talked about specifically, but I'm intrigued. Like, what do you believe was the main reason why, or a pinnacle of your career as a project manager, or before, why you even decided to do this whole hack situation for the module?
that's a great question. Um, I think back to my career, and there's a saying like, "If it's silly and it works, it's not silly," kind of thing. Um, and I think in another chat I had with Joe, I remember this scene in Harry Potter, and it's talking about one character who's using this book to make potions or something, and he realizes in the margins are all these little notes about better ways to do it. And so, like, there's the manual, there's the way to do it, but then there's what we all discover is a way that works better, or is more efficient, or just makes more sense. And that's what all those little notes in the margins were. And I thought back to the different types of projects I've been on. Um, one always comes to mind: driving a hard disk 3 hours across state lines to update a server. Like, that's not in a book anywhere, but what's the quickest way to update something? Well, sometimes you pick up the box and you go take it to the other place. So thinking back to all of these rules that we might be taught as a project manager, and thinking back to all these situations I've been in where maybe the rule or the accepted way of doing it was non optimal for some reason, and then wanting to show others that there are other ways to do it. We don't have to do it by the book. Again, kind of touching back earlier, there will be some instances where there's a regulation or a requirement or a constraint that prevents us from doing certain things. However, within that, there is a ton of, I'll say, wiggle room to find other interesting ways to do things. And so that mindset has helped me a lot through my career. And that's why I went with like the hacks idea. I don't want to call them shortcuts because that suggests we're not doing the job properly or we're forgetting something. But hacks, like, how do we make this work in a way that supports everything and is quicker or more efficient or better suited than other ways?
No, I mean, again, with your background, those hacks, or however we want to say it, right? Like it's there, and it's like your mindset. You hit the nail on the head in regards to like having that mindset has really helped you out. And I know
Mhm.
for a fact it's not going to just help me out after I went over your modules, but then also all the other dozens and hundreds of other people who are going to continuously look over Pure. And whether we talk about certain software programs or AI and automation. For me specifically, I'm a huge advocate of everything that we talk about in our modules. Is they're not. Let's talk specifically AI, right? I also talk about ChatGPT. I talk about Fathom. I talk about Perplexity, and different ways to analyze our projects. Again,
Mhm.
keeping it classified or unclassified as best as possible in a certain environment, but using these as a tool and not as a solution. You say you don't necessarily
Ah,
want to
yes.
say shortcut, right? Well, yeah, exactly, because it's really those people who utilize it only as a solution, where it might, they may not really believe in it as much as they should. But if we use it really just as a tool or a hack, in that case, it makes our lives just exponentially easier. We still got to put in, the legwork and the elbow grease in everything, right? We still have to do that. But now I don't have to focus on editing on certain things. Now I don't have to focus on
Yes.
all these little minute details. And me, especially, I would say almost, or I would say every single person in all of our modules have a high work ethic. And so when it comes to that, there's also, I don't want to say, perfectionism, but we always focus on all the little minute details, like, oh, my margins, or hey, is this bullet a circle or a hollow circle or something like that, right? And so with AI and automation, we can make that a lot easier. And I can't tell you how many times I spent. I mean, probably. hours on a month just for these little marginal things that I don't have to worry about anymore. So yeah, definitely a tool, not a solution.
I like that about a tool. I've actually got for some reason, a wrench on my desk. But I think of all of like project management as a toolkit. And if you don't know how to use the wrench properly, I usually say a hammer. You might whack your thumb or something. Or you might not even pick up the tool because you're intimidated by it. You don't know how it works. And think I'll pick on AI because that's such a hot topic. I'm very comfortable with it because I'm like, ooh, fun toy. Let me go see what it can do. Um, but the way you break it down and share it, makes it approachable, makes it seem like not this scary thing that I'll break the internet. It's a bit beyond, that's a bit too much. But also making the tools approachable that, again, I wouldn't get, from a standard, this is just project management. Like, no, this tool will help you do your process, whatever that process is. And here's how you can use it. And I think that guidance is also incredibly valuable. And that's hard to find, having someone like yourself explain it in a way that makes me be like, oh, yeah, I can go use this and build my stakeholder plan, or I can go use this other tool to simplify things or find all the bullet points that I missed. Or even that example, I hear of something and I think it's just good for this. You can help me break that mindset and say, no, look at what else this does.
Another big thing is and I'm huge on this,
Mhm.
especially as a small business owner, but anyone from veterans who are separating from the military to aspiring project managers to professional expert project managers at a new company or something like that.
Mhm.
Analysis paralysis. It's the
Yes.
number one killer for so many people, including myself. And AI and automation or in these hacks, you talk about specifically Trello and Asana and Google Docs and all these things. It's just start doing it, right? All you gotta do is do step one. Stop overthinking different things. And I feel like a lot of these tools help just that. Just go with it and then start editing if need be and whatnot. But the fact is that we can utilize these tools to finally get that step 1 through 5, whatever it may be. And analysis paralysis, again, it was such a big thing. And I'm a um shiny object syndrome person as well. So whenever I see a new AI and a new automation tool of any kind, I'm just like, I want to see how I can make this better or make my life a lot easier and better. I mean, so
It's interesting with the tools. I'm usually in environments where I'm just given the tool. Like, I don't have the luxury of, ideally with a system you would evaluate. Oh, Josh, what are your requirements for this system? Let me write them down and let me go evaluate the market and bring you 3 that might work. In my experience, especially with I'll call them startups, and you kind of touched on this. Some of them were multinational companies with tens of thousands of workers, so not like 2 people in a garage. But usually it's just, here's the tool, figure it out. And that for me helped get me over that paralysis thing because, I have Confluence as my knowledge base. I don't get to pick. That's any color you want as long as it's black. That helped me get over it, which gave me certain mastery over it. My weakness, though, is that I'm kind of blind to other tools, Asana, Trello, etc., that also exist, which is where, stuff like Pure in my mind is really valuable for me, even as a Pure instructor, to see what these options are and to help expand the scope of my vision. My challenge isn't it's too broad; it's too narrow just with these 2 tools. And you got to hammer everything's a nail.
and Pure does exactly that. How many, man, I don't have the exact number, but there's a lot of tools that we all go, or many of us go over, right?
Mhm.
And the practicality of so many different things. So where you may not be, or if somebody's in a similar situation where they didn't have as much broad spectrum in one tool, software, program, whatever it may be, or experience, the other, more than likely the other 28 modules is going to have something similar to that, right? And so I really I'm glad that we were able to talk about the different types of tools that we're most likely using in helping other people. But I have to ask as well, your project hacks
Mhm.
module specifically, I have it pulled up here. So the breaking down work schedules, then you also have communication,
Mhm.
time management, budget. I mean, each one of these are extremely complicated. And so whether we can go off script a slightly, but I'm curious,
Oh yeah.
what is your favorite hack for which in which part of it whether it's in the module, hopefully it is, but like whether it's budgets, work breakdown, whatever it may be, what's your favorite hack, you think?
I don't actually think I put it in there.
Or most
Um,
useful, or most useful.
the one that just jumped to mind, Josh, every time I go into a meeting, I mentioned I use Confluence. That happens to be my tool, but this could work with anything. I have a template that I open up for meeting notes, and that template does three things. The first, it allows me to assign action items in real time. And your course with AI kind of steals that thunder a little because AI can also do that. But as I'm taking notes about the meeting in real time, I'm writing down, oh, Rob said he would do this for this reason at this date. Josh said he would do that. Um, I take notes on what we talked about, but I also record decisions. So I have like three sections that explicitly do these things. Um, and I like doing that because a number of times earlier in my career, we had to sit down and produce receipts. Why did we just, why did we build it this way? Okay, go find the meeting recording or the email, and it takes forever. It's like, no, I'm just going to have this all in the meeting notes. So when I send it out to all my stakeholders, I'll say, here are the raw notes, and I'll make sure they're not too raw. Here's my distillation of them, but here's what we decided. And I give people in that moment the chance to say, actually, you got this wrong, or hey, we got to talk about this more. But I find doing it at the time it's happening to be a great trick because then I don't have to sit down and think about, wait, what did we talk about? I also am very good at like listening and writing things down or typing while I'm moving, things like that. So it's easier for me to just like kind of transcribe as we go. So I really leverage that ability I happen to have to make sure that my notes have those action items, those decisions right there in the moment. So I then don't have to scramble in 6 months to defend whatever choice we made.
Yeah, so I'm actually the opposite. And again, which is why I love this because I'm I am good at transcribing while talking as well, but it's always pen and paper.
Hmm.
And sometimes that could even take longer. Sure, there's shorthand notes, but putting it to pen and paper into your computer can actually take longer. So what I end up doing is, and sometimes a lot of people like myself aren't the best multitaskers. And so for me specifically, am a big believer in Fathom, and the way their AI and automation is that I usually go over my meetings in a specific way where I'm like, okay, so towards the end of the meeting, I'll say, so the next few action steps for you are blah blah blah. The next few action steps for me are blah blah blah, right?
Hmm.
And then the software will actually pick it up. And
Yep.
so towards the end, it'll say action steps for so and so, and here are the following, right? And so you have there's a lot of playing, there's a lot of give and take, but once you understand it, it's like chef's kiss when it comes to making your life so much easier because now I'm like, so I have something due, at this very moment or, next week, let's say. But what was it exactly? And then I start looking at it and I'm just, yeah, I'm so glad. And on top of that, there's also different formats on how you want to talk about your summary. And so you get the email right away about like,
Hmm.
hey, here's the latest summary and the video with it. And then you can do it from a sales pitch perspective or a generic chronological order if you want to. There's like I think like 7 to 10 different formats for it. But
Almost like tone
regardless,
or, yeah.
yeah, just really how you feel it best fits for the exact situation. But ChatGPT. A lot of people utilize it. Oof, I guess more so in a generic way, but really, as long as a lot of the information is not confidential and you have approval, you can utilize so much information on what the project itself is, what are some of the resources, what are some of the constraints, put all this into a document, copy and paste it into ChatGPT or Perplexity,
Hmm.
and then figure out where are some areas that you can improve on or what are some contingencies that we need to be focusing on as well. And sure, again, we've mentioned it multiple times, it's a tool, not a solution, but it's giving us some actual information that if we agree, that's awesome. We don't
Yeah.
want to just blindly agree. And if we disagree, well, why do we disagree? Now we're reverse engineering it as to why do we disagree with it because of X, Y, and Z reasons. I love the friction with a lot of AI because I want to agree or disagree and reverse engineer it and figure out, okay, what is the best answer for me, right? And a lot of
Hmm.
people just go through ChatGPT or whatever and just put in their question and then just automatically take it as in it's gospel.
Mm.
I'm not, you already know that we shouldn't be doing that regardless, because we, always should be editing it ourselves. But I'm pretty sure Confluence has some AI or definitely automation tools in regards to it as well. How much have, not to completely divert the original question,
It's a
but how
tool.
much do you think it's been, do you think Confluence or some of the other programs that either you used or within the module that you mentioned, because I know you mentioned Trello and Asana. How do you think that we are really going forward with AI and automation, whether it's from task blocks or whatever it may be?
Yeah, Confluence itself, and it's got different tiers, but in its cloud premium tier, so a paid tier, has what they call Atlassian Intelligence, which drives me nuts because its acronym is AI. I'm sure I'm sure they're like, hey, this is perfect. um, so I'll just call for the rest of this little bit of AI. This is Atlassian Intelligence. It started out basically like ChatGPT, right? Like, give me, write this for me, or summarize this document. And it's been around for about a year, 8 months. But it's the arc of that tool, and we briefly touched on this earlier. It's now able to do things like give me a summary of the changes to this page since the last time I looked at it. So imagine we had a project charter that you're working on with multiple people, and someone works on it over the weekend. You don't have, where were they? Look at the version history. The AI will just summarize that for you, and then it will actually reference the exact version and say, here's exactly where that happened. So you can go back and check its work, which is nice. So that I've used a lot because that happens to be where all the knowledge is. And it's doing other things too with its ability to tie in. They have these things called whiteboards, so visual planning. If I'm working with an engineering software team on planning out a sprint or something, it can do things like auto assign tickets in the ticketing system based on where I put them, or help me organize or group things. But the thing you keep coming back to is it's a tool, right? It's not the outcome. It's enabling me as the project manager to do my job in a better way, hopefully, in a different way. It's not doing the job for me. And so they're adding these tools, and it's essentially a knowledge base into a knowledge base, which is great. The other two you mentioned, Trello and Asana, in my mind, are more on the task management side. Um, I don't use Trello as much. I've used Asana in the past, but those tend to be more on the workflow. So, how does my work need to move from state to state? I use a similar tool called Jira, also by Atlassian, for that. And the same idea of you can go in and you can talk to the AI and say, hey, when my developer makes this kind of ticket with these criteria, I need you to take these 12 actions for me. Link it to this other ticket, go alert someone of, whatever it is. And it's thinking through, okay, what would I as a human have to have done? And I pick on interns a lot, but if I had a whole army of interns, what would they all go have to do for me? We can just have the system do that. The tool can do it for us. In the same way that that little wrench I had makes it easier to turn a bolt. It's the system is now taking all these actions on my behalf, so I don't need to. I can focus on the higher order stuff, the thinking through those contingencies, the making sure the relationship with the other humans that I work with is good, and not, hey, did we put the ticket in the right spot? Oh, we forgot a label on this page, and everything falls apart.
I, I mean, yeah, I can't, again, for veterans or, military in any way, shape or form, but definitely government, project management isn't as, it's not just in your face, right? Like I often say that, if you want to look great, just do your job. And if you want to look like a legend, go, above and beyond. And one of those above and beyond things, it doesn't have to be huge. It can be small things. And one of those things is meeting summaries, and then also the task management, right? And actually having something there. And so we talked so many programs, Asana, Trello, Google Docs, it could be Excel, it could be Microsoft Project, it could be so many
Mhm.
things. But having that automation, AI and automation, or these hacks, just to be able to simply boom, just do it like that, and automatically knowing that we are able to, okay, after I did this meeting, it goes straight into here. Here are the action steps. It goes straight into here. Oh, by the way, that intern or whoever it may be goes straight into, this is what you're going to be looking at, and all this is just in, what, within a couple minutes or a couple seconds. And it's those little things, every 1% makes a big difference, especially for our careers. And that's why I love, a lot of these tools, because it can really make a huge difference. sometimes I feel like I have an existential crisis because we take a lot of this stuff, not really, but like in regards to like we take a lot of these things for granted, right?
Mhm,
Just like when it comes to, again, we've talked about, meetings or whatever it may be, but automatically being able to just know, okay, this is covered, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
mhm.
Government, honestly, I know I keep on going back to this, but government really could benefit from this. But you deal with classifications and all this stuff, right? And I get it. I'm hoping that there will be somebody out there eventually that can have that secret to TS or whatnot type of programs out there. But it really is becoming a huge benefit for so many different individuals and veterans and commercial wide. I did have another question, totally separate from this, but
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off though.
As you were saying that, I was just thinking of, imagine starting being a very junior project manager in the next few years, and you and I have had to learn these tools and unlearn other ways, and we're both like, wow, this is great. But imagine if this was there's a term digital native for people born after the internet was really a thing, um, like just being born with things like the Chat GPT, the Perplexities, the other tools, and that's just the expected way to do things. In 50 years, it'll be amazing to see how project management has evolved and changed with those tools. The other use cases, the other capabilities, and then people don't even think twice. Like the meeting notes are just automagic; they just appear. There's no effort. You don't have to go set anything up. Just boom, it's in your inbox. Yeah, but your question.
Well, I'm gonna caveat back onto that too.
Oh,
Is as things keep on evolving and more people are trying to realize how to utilize these. You mentioned Perplexity.
mm,
I actually use Perplexity more than Google now.
mm,
And when what was it? 20 it's 2025 now. So 2022, 2023 is when ChatGPT really blew up, right?
yeah.
And people were using it all the time, or a lot of beginners were utilizing a lot of it, and a lot of the resources or information that I was pulling from could have been biased or could have been wrong. I've seen it countless times. You can easily see copy and pasted information that was wrong or whatnot. But Perplexity, though, as AI has grown, you're getting these actual articles, these actual resources to actually tie to what your question is, and you can use that in regards to your project as well. And so and these are these are accredited resources that are actually being utilized more often than not. We always want to double check, but I'm such a huge fan of Perplexity in general when it comes to a lot of the, honestly, from learning how to make what's my latest creation I tried making, chicharrones. So for making, chicharrones,
The fried
to,
pork skin.
learning,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, to, learning the complexities of certain project or program management capabilities within my current project or something, right? And so I'm such a huge fan of it. But my question, one of the biggest things that I didn't know, or that was a huge shock to me is, Mr. Lee Lambert is the
Mhm.
ambassador, the last founder of the PMP exam, or the last founder of a huge exam, having Mr. Lee Lambert being a part of our team, and as uh, he is an amazing individual and he's been around in project management for quite some time. How do you feel, or what do you think that really would, or what really helps out to him when it comes to these hacks, these programs, these AI and automation? We talked about, before, like a lot of times, whether you're new to it or
Mhm.
if you were here before the internet, before a lot of this stuff, it takes a lot of time to try to get into it. And one of the things that I loved about Pure is the fact of how easy it is to get into it, and how we can utilize all this, knowledge and tools today, and we can use it today or tomorrow. But I'm curious, for a lot of individuals who are maybe just not really accustomed to a lot of these things, how do you think Mr. Lee Lambert and a lot of people are going to be taking, these modules?
That's a great question. It's not just repackaging existing things, right? Like we didn't all sit down and pull apart a project management book number 12 and say, Josh, you're doing this part, and just do it with your background. We're taking the real world stuff that we've experienced and then putting that through the lens of ourselves. So we're taking what we've done and then picking out the bits that work and the bits that are good and passing those along. Um, for me, just the intentionality behind that, like I tell my students, I want you to be better than me. Like I can help you start at a higher spot than I started at. And so that means you will be a better project manager, a better project hacker, a better self-care person, whatever that is, because you'll be able to start further along the line than I did. And I look at any one of these modules and go, that would have been great to have had at the start. And I'm only 15 years into a professional project management career. Forget however long Lee's been around and other people who are experts, right? Or other experts, I guess. It's also what is it called? The imposter syndrome of, oh, I can't be that good. Um, but no, it's, my intention behind this is people take it as exactly that. This is helping those new project managers who don't have anything yet start higher up. And it's helping the people who've been doing it learn new things. And if they've seen it before, they can go, yeah, cool, that works. Or I tried that. That didn't work for me. But oh, this other thing is really neat. Let's go try that.
Yeah, you mentioned what has worked for us and why we were, more than likely picked for this whole entire pure course and being instructors. But I also want to make a note of this is that you and I both talked about that we have an IT background and I
Hmm.
have a, military veteran background as well. But we have instructors with that were teachers. We have instructors that were also part of digital photography, but also marketing and healthcare. We have a lot of diverse background for a lot of our instructors that can appeal to so many people. And when every time that we talk about or within our modules, it's not just here's what's going to work for only teachers, right? Because
Yes.
then people part of IT may not want to look at that module. Our goal for every single module was to be as diverse as possible. Now, sometimes, as a resume writer and career coach, using the word diverse, it's a loaded word, right?
Hmm.
Because when we try to be broad or try to appeal to everyone, we don't appeal to anyone. But the thing is that this is only focused if we I also often say niches get riches. So when we niche down more and more, we can appeal to more and more people.
Yeah.
And one of the best things is sure we have a diverse range of all these professionals, yet our biggest niche here is that we're doing something new that's going to be higher than a lot of other educational content out there that is geared towards project managers that from entry to expert that can be utilizing information today. And I think Lee Lambert sees that, and a lot of individuals are seeing that. In fact, I just had a client that has their high level certifications, two or three of them,
Hmm.
and they're still looking to pursue, or they are actually currently going through the pure right now because
Amazing.
they just need something to give them a lot more practicality. What's the next step, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm a huge believer. And I'm confident in saying that this is going to be the next biggest and best credential for project managers out there.
Yeah, to your point, it's that practicality. And thinking back, like I learned by doing, which worked for Rob. Like, yeah, I'll figure this out and make all the mistakes, and it'll be painful, but I'll get to learn. Um, but our experience can help others avoid that pain. And not that the other types of learning, the books that I was talking about, isn't good. That is useful knowledge to have. However, really through the lens of experience, for me, it's much more powerful and much more useful. Yeah, which is what I was excited about with this. The pure approach is, hey, this is real world. This is what has happened. This is what these experts have figured out that works. So you can take that and be better.
Yeah, I definitely think that there are maybe throughout this whole entire video, there are times that I feel like I was really putting a little bit too much emphasis on why I liked Pure so much. But make no mistake, like having something that, just like you said, having that practicality that I can use today or using something right now, it's such a big thing for me. Now some
Mhm.
people may want to have something that um that's going to help them out in the job role or something like that, something in getting a new job, right? And there are certain certifications that can do that, but I also always say, especially because I only focus on project management careers for my business, is that experience always triumphs over anything else. And with information that you're going over, the information that I go over, you can easily get that experience right away. In IT, for instance, I had my CCNA, or my Cisco certification and
Mhm.
everything, and we can do labs right off the bat, and that way we can get that experience to learn and grow from it, and then we can utilize that information to go straight into the workforce. I'm a network engineer and fiber infrastructure specialist. That's my main background. And having simulations was such a big deal for me to get that experience. And I'm glad that I have something that I can actually get that experience from people like you, for those hacks and everything. My last question, and I know we're getting towards the tail end and everything. My last question is this:
Yeah.
you already mentioned one of your top tips or hacks in general, but I've always had a problem with budget and time management and everything like that. And
Oof.
budget and time management is such a huge thing that I see on every single resume that everyone tries to make better, and they always want to try to make better on their resume, but also make better in their career in general for their department or company. What's your It could be your top three, it could be your top tip, whatever it may be. What's your biggest thing that you would want to tell everyone when it comes to time or budget management hacks, let's say?
Time management, one that I have started doing, calendar blocking, and this is one of those things that I talk to some people about and like, "Yeah, I've done that for years, that's not useful," and I talk to other people and they go, "Wait, what?" I was that person, 6, 7 months ago. I was like, "How do I get all this stuff done?" Well, what if I just schedule an hour on my calendar that says, "Chat with Josh," or half an hour that says, "Prepare for the meeting?" Um, and I found that, like, that reminds me, "Hey, this is what you should be doing." It's like my own little project plan about the project plan. It takes a little bit of time, but even that time is valuable because I have a moment to think through, what do I really need to do? I can look at the list of everything and I look at my calendar and go, I only have 3 1-hour chunks. What are the 3 things I'm gonna do? Oh, it's this one, and this one. And even that, then that's another little like hack within a hack that helped me prioritize my work. I just pull out those 3 things, slap them on the calendar. And that also then communicates to my team, like, what is Rob up to? What does he think is important today? Oh, preparing for his chat, doing the chat, following up from it, whatever those are. So again, that's a very small, simple thing. We all have a calendar somewhere. It could be a paper one, but just draw a box around some time and write in the name of whatever you want to do in that hour. And then hopefully you read it and do it. That's the problem that I have. I forget about looking at the calendar, but at least you've planned it out. You've taken a minute to think through it. I guess I'll flip that back at you, Josh. You've mentioned a bunch of different AI tools. Which is your favorite and why? Like which of those tools you're like this one?
Oh gosh. Um I will say my favorite hack. This is in junction actually to what you for time hacks. Actually,
Hmm.
it's not a tool. It's not a program. It's not a software. You talk about time blocking. I would say realizing my biggest hack in life was realizing the difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah.
And time blocking showed me that. That was by far the number one thing, realizing, in 8 hours, if we're working 8-hour days, and be like, oh man, I feel like I didn't get anything done. And it's, already the end of the day. I started to realize, well, again, was I just being busy, a busybody compared to actually being productive? And time blocking was, is such a huge one for me. And when it came to the actual tools, my gosh, I mean, I think the one that I love the most is definitely Fathom when it comes to, because I've used 5 different meeting summaries for after meetings and everything, and by far Fathom has been the best to me. But I think the one that I use and is the best, it's got to be ChatGPT. ChatGPT is by far my
OG.
favorite. Now, I would say close to a second is Perplexity.
Mhm.
And Perplexity, because I know ChatGPT has their search algorithms and they keep on improving it, but so is Perplexity, and they were one of the first ones, and I love the layout of it. But ChatGPT was the, I'm not going to say OG, but I am going to say, like, it really, opened the whole world to it. And ChatGPT, from, again, knowing what's the other creation that I tried doing. Not chicharrones, but I was trying to do a different type of pork roast. So learning how to do a different type of slow cooking pork roast, to learning a full on program analysis based on all these constraints or budget and time constraints. I mean, it's huge,
Mhm.
and I can't uh, stress enough like how much I've really appreciated ChatGPT with all of it. But make no mistake, I'm done if hundreds of AI and tools out there that, again, going back to the whole analysis paralysis, that you may just not know which one to start with, right? And for me, it's always ChatGPT to start with, and then you can go into other ones too. But Fathom is by far I love the most, and ChatGPT is probably the one I use the most, though.
Oh, interesting. And as that evolves, I'm sure the tools will get much more, specific, not pigeonholed, wrong term, but they'll have specialties. Your chat GPTs for certain things, Fathom for another, your perplexities for a third. Yeah, that'll be curious. I'm just, again, from the technical side, what will that look like in 10 years? That kind of thing.
Well, and you know what? I can't. I feel horrible if I didn't mention as well the other programs, Asana and Monday.com and Trello, right? Like, I'll be honest. Again, government and military, I didn't have much experience with Microsoft Project, and
Hmm.
now I had to learn, and it took a lot of time and everything. But my gosh, the other part that I really like too is just how easy and fluid a lot of these programs are now too, Asana and Trello and everything. Now, there's going to be a lot of people out there who are swear by Microsoft Project, and they were born and raised,
Hmm.
since the dawn of time on MS Project. But let me tell you, Monday, Trello, and Asana makes my life so much easier when it comes to all the individuals part of a project, from small, from a couple $1,000s to multi-million-dollar projects and programs. I'm so glad that they made that part a lot easier. That, again, entry to expert level individuals can utilize right away too.
Yeah, pick up and be successful without any background or a lot of background.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, yeah, so that was a lot of the information that I had on my specific module, and what my favorite were. I'm really glad that we were able to have that, the fact that you had the hacks. Now, again, I know you also did self-care, and I also know that you did lessons learned too. Um, I guess, okay, this is my true final question. Um,
I promise.
because you had the honor of doing more than one, I'm gonna have to talk to Joe. Maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe it's my microphone. Maybe it's my background. Maybe it's my tie. Maybe he didn't like my tie. I'm not sure
Well,
why I
you've got a
wasn't
better beard
chosen
than
to
me,
do more
though.
than one.
So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to Joe why I wasn't picked for more than one. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, what was your biggest things to take from your other modules that you did?
I did this self care one because I realized there's a lot of things that I do to stay sane. I've been in very stressful work environments for various reasons, and I've realized like nothing's worth my sanity. I also have family, I have friends, I have other things outside of work. And to remind other project managers that we need to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others, whether that's our project team or our partners or our family. So that one was really rewarding from that sense, where I got to build my own skills in taking care of Rob to make sure that Rob can take care of others. And it's everything from how to eat better to sleep. And for some folks, this might be a no brainer, but for many folks, some of this will be very useful information. Yeah, and a similar thing with the lessons learned. We've all been on projects that we get to the end and we go, great, we're done, and we move on to the next thing. And we never take time, we never make time to sit down and go, hey, why did that work? And even if we do that, we tend to only do it way at the end of the project. And we forget all the stuff that happened in the middle and beginning. So we end up biasing ourselves to the last few months. Yeah. So I thought through, hey, what would have helped Rob at a number of projects? And it's, oh yeah, sit down and talk to the team once a month, once every few weeks. Steal the idea of a retrospective, that term from a more agile project, and do it elsewhere. So the first one is taking care of ourselves so we can take care of our teams, whatever that is for you, exercise, sleep, diet, whatever. But then also making time to learn and understand things from the project, because the project isn't just about doing the thing. It's also about improving the team and organization.
So I'm just thinking about it as you're talking. You literally have something to help project managers from their past, their present, and their future.
Oh,
You have
funny.
things that can help their past of, how did they deal with, or how are they, it could also be present, but how did they deal with certain situations? And then you have the hacks, which are helping them currently at this very moment. And then you have something in regards to lessons learned, which is their future you for all the other projects. So the fact that you can do something for past, present, future, I love that.
I hadn't thought of it through that lens, Josh, but yeah, looking back, that's interesting. Huh. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
Absolutely. Well, that's everything I had, though. You have any other questions for me, or is there anything else that you felt like you wanted to talk about?
Nothing right now, Josh, but there's certainly a ton in Pure. This is one of those things I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and go, hey, I forgot blank. I forgot something. Um, but really appreciate your time, and to everyone watching, thank you for sticking around. As I mentioned, this is the first time I've spoken to Josh live, I think. I've definitely seen him a lot in the Pure course, so go check that out. You've seen the little scroller along the bottom here. Check out the description for a link and all that. But there's a ton of great information in there that I know I'll speak just for myself, but I also kind of speaking for the rest of us that we believe you will find very useful and helpful in your careers. So thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, and Robert, I wanted to ask, are you active on LinkedIn as well?
Highly active. You'll see me posting at least once a day, right here. and
Man, so whoever's behind the screen doing a lot of this information, they are phenomenal. I'll tell you that much.
they are an
But
amazing person.
yeah, they are. But yeah, yeah, yeah. How often, or what's your like main topic for everything?
That's a great question. I got more involved in LinkedIn talking about the Atlassian products because I use those. Again, I've been forced to use Jira and Confluence, and so I want others to not have the same pain that I went through. So you'll see me doing lots of tips and tricks on how to use Jira or Confluence. You'll see me posting. I do live learning sessions on those tools, but also study sessions on how to get better at using them. Yeah, and then you also see me doing like project management tips and tricks, whether it's a short video or a "Hey, did you know?" kind of stuff. Yeah, again, it's all about helping others get that little bit better at one of these topics.
I mean, it's always about being, one to, infinite steps forward compared to some other people who are just starting. So being known as that guy, I said earlier, niches get riches, but in this case, the riches is just the pure knowledge of everything. And that's awesome. That fact that you could be known as that individual and everything as well. So that's awesome.
It's bizarre, Josh. Again, it's that imposter syndrome. I do these 1 hour trainings. I'm like, why are so many people? Why are there 100 people listening to me talk about how to use a template or whatever? Yeah, but it's a great spot to be.
You're talking to like 20 plus instructors that were asked from amazing individuals to give our background experience, but we never realized, again, if we can help one person get one step closer to their goal based on a lot of the information, and just like what you do for, one step closer to learning these fairly complicated programs and software and everything, I mean, that's a huge win.
Mhm.
And so yeah, from pure to, everything for the information that you give on LinkedIn for the specific program like that. Yeah, I mean, that's always one step forward is always an amazing ways forward. So
And where are you active, Josh? Right.
by far LinkedIn is my
LinkedIn.
number one.
Yep.
Yeah, and my whole goal is always making sure to either talk about the amazing value of Pure, but also helping veterans and aspiring project managers specifically on resume bullets, interview questions, a lot of that stuff. So I always try to give as many. I try my best to never just rinse and repeat what a lot of other individuals do, and really hone in on only the project management career, just kind of like what you do, only honing in on a certain specific program that can be
Mhm.
complicated. So from pure to PM resumes and interviews, that's my main goal.